Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC, and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. I also live stream my builds and repairs for transparency and educational purposes. So if you would like to get an awesome new PC and you'd like to see it get put together live, send me a message today. Alright, so tonight we're going to be building Tim's PC. How's that? So it's not my PC, it's another guy named Tim. Speaking of which, I don't think we've sent Tim a message. I might want to actually let him know. And look, you didn't peel the sticky off, babe.
You normally do, that's why I didn't even look.
I leave them for you because you love them.
Oh, I didn't know you just started to leave them for me. You always peel them. Thank you very much. Caught me off guard.
Oh, I know, right? Look at that. Jesus, I've had a lot of messages the last few days. Shit. I'm so sorry if you're waiting to hear back from me from a message. I'm one guy. All right. Here we got Jared's here. Hey Jared, how you going? Oh mate, yeah, it's getting crazy. It's almost, Jesus, almost like I almost need to hire someone. Almost need to hire someone. It's getting very close to that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive Christmas. See if I can see how well I can muddle through Christmas, keeping up with inquiries. That's going to be another challenge. But it's not really your concern. It's my concern. And Mark's here. Hey Mark, how you going? Good to have you here with us. All right, so yeah, we've got another awesome build here tonight with an RTX 3080. So this time we've got the Galaxy 3080. This one here, this is the only card that you can get right now out of the mainstream brands that actually has addressable RGB fans on the graphics card. So the graphics card fans themselves are actual RGB fans. So that's kind of cool. Like most card manufacturers obviously don't see it as worthwhile investment. But obviously Galaxy has dared to be different. They've got some really impressive looking cards with the 30 series. If you don't know what the Galaxy Hall of Fame card is, I suggest you look that one up. So just type in Galaxy HOF, HOF, Galaxy HOF. Type it into Google and have a look. It's a pretty crazy, yeah, the HOF. Don't just hassle the HOF. Oh, sweet. Who we got there? Alex, hey, how you going, Alex? Alrighty, so we'll go through our components here tonight. So we've got an i7 11700F CPU, so 8 cores, 16 threads. We've got ourselves the MSI B560M Pro VDH Wi-Fi motherboard here. So this is kind of like our very popular Ryzen motherboard, the MSI B550M Pro VDH Wi-Fi. This is essentially the Intel version of the same board. But surprisingly, it actually has a slightly different heatsink configuration, so I'll point that out, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, in addition to that, what have we got around the front here? We've got 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance 3200 MHz CL16 memory. So we've got two 16 gigabyte sticks here, so we can even expand to 64 gigabytes in the future. We've got a 500 gigabyte Kingston NV1 NVMe SSD, and we've also got a 1 terabyte WD Blue SATA SSD. So that's the 7200 RPM one, which is the one that you want because you want those high speeds from your hard drive. High speeds from your hard drive. Imagine that. Alright, and we've got, obviously here, we've got some extra case fans. We've got ourselves the Silverstone PF240 all-in-one liquid cooler here, which we're going to put at the top of our case. I do like the fact that Silverstone include a Molex to fan connection for the pump, so we don't have to worry about putting the pump connected to one of the headers on the motherboard. We don't have to worry about how it's tuned in BIOS. The customer can do BIOS updates, reset things, take the battery out, all that sort of stuff. He doesn't have to worry about the pump configuration and stuff like that, because we're just going to power it direct current from the power supply via the Molex cable, which is really good. I've actually run out of those little Molex to fan connection cables. I need to go and buy like another big box of like 100 of them or something. Who we got here? Hey Peter, how you going? Good to have you here. And so in addition to that, we've got a Cooler Master Master Watt 750 watt semi-modular power supply. Or is it a fully modular one? Can you see on the front?
It's fully. Oh, partially.
No, semi-modular. I was right. Yeah, sweet. And it's got the 5-year warranty there on this one. So, like I've said, you always hear me crap on about power supplies and stuff like that. I feel like I'm a bit outspoken on the subject and stuff, but when it comes to picking a power supply, the main things that you want to look at is the warranty and the overall like power output figures that you'll see on the back of the box.
Tim says hi, Tim.
Hi Tim. Is yet another Tim joining us. This is my mate. He's a local from around here in the Wynnum, in the 4178/4173 region here in Brisbane. We represent. All right, let's have a look at this board. So, like I said, this is basically very, very similar to the B550M that you see us use here quite a lot with AMD builds. And so obviously motherboards, we don't always see the most fancy motherboards and stuff like that in people's builds, because in general when we're prioritizing your spend for a gaming PC, generally there are other areas that we like to prioritize a little bit more than spending $400 on the motherboard. If it's a case of spending $400 on a motherboard, or spending an extra $250 on the graphics card or the CPU or the RAM, that's generally a better way to go in most cases. There are exceptions and stuff. Extreme enthusiasts need to have a bit of a better heat solution here on the board, because when you overclock your CPU, you're not just overclocking the CPU, you're overclocking all of these components on the board that communicate with the CPU. It can't use more power without all of these things actually churning through a lot more power. So a lot more heat gets generated here, and the more powerful a CPU you plug in, the more inherent wattage is going to flow through here, and the more heat is going to be generated. So it becomes more and more important on high-end boards to get that right. But for ordinary people, just with non-overclockable CPUs and stuff like that, this is fine. You don't really need anything more than this. So, and this you'll see from when we go around the board, this still has really good features. I mean, if you were to compare this board here with a similar board for a similar price point from like 2 years ago, even just 2 years ago, you wouldn't have seen dual M2 slots. You'd be lucky if you saw one, and you'd probably be lucky to have. What have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've only got 4 on this board. We have 5 on the MSI one, but most boards, even just a few years ago, that were micro ATX would only have like 3 fan headers and stuff like that. So you're getting a lot more actually physically on the board for your money, and obviously built-in Wi-Fi. So if we go around the board here, we've got 8 pins of CPU power. Our LGA 1200 socket here for the CPU. Got a little tiny chassis intrusion header. These 2 little pins that you can see there next to the DIMM slots. So we could hook up a little chassis intrusion cable there, and if the side panel got taken off, that little header would come out and it would record a chassis intrusion event. So over here we've got two fan headers here, one designated for the pump, one designated for the CPU. We've got our easy debug LEDs, which the camera focuses, you'll be able to see them. So you've got one there for the CPU, the RAM, the graphics card, and the boot, which is essentially the like the SSD or something like that. There's a problem with it. There's a problem with it passing all of its checks, but it wasn't an issue with the graphics card or the CPU or the RAM. A little bit confusing there, but these lights are just sort of meant to point you in the right direction if your computer won't turn on properly. Anyway, this is our 24-pin ATX power, so the main power for everything else on our motherboard. We've got 4 slots for our memory, so this is dual channel memory across 4 slots. So this is why when we install our memory, we're going to be using, see there's a little diagram here, and it shows you which slots on this board to use first. So in this case we're going to use this slot here and this slot here for our memory, because we're only installing 2 sticks. The CPU can communicate with both channels at the same time, so it's important that we've got just 2 sticks, that we put them into 2 separate channels so we get that latency improvement there by the CPU being able to talk to both at the same time. Anyway, over here we have another fan header. It's like some voltage selection pins. Doesn't look like there's a circuit diagram on the board there for it. You'd have to refer to the manual. Over here we've got 4 horizontally orientated SATA ports. We've got 2 vertically orientated ones there. Then what have we got down here? That looks like a MSI Trusted Platform Module header. Then we have a 5-volt RGB header. We've got a diagnostic speaker header, and then we've got our front panel connections for our power, reset, case lights, etc. We've got a vertically orientated USB 3, 2 USB 2s. We've got a COM port there, and various debug pins there for the COM port set of the different configurations. We don't really use COM ports anymore. This is kind of like a legacy feature that's on there. They probably had the parts they needed for that, so they're just getting rid of them. I don't know how many people really use a COM port these days. That's got to be few and far between at this point. Maybe if you had some like old printers or scanners or something like that, someone's still using COM port, the serial port. Anyway, we've got a 12-volt RGB header down here as well, and then we've got our front panel audio connections here. These little gold capacitors here are the audio capacitors. All this stuff around here is related to the audio. And then at the rear I/O here, our audio is obviously as close as possible to the rest of the audio on the board, because obviously audio is an electrical signal, so it's subject to electromagnetic interference from other systems, so they try to isolate it in the one area, sort of down here, out of the way, away from the CPU and away from other parts of the board that use a bit of power. We've got our Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1. Obviously there we've just got the little CNVI Wi-Fi card there plugged into a little vertical port there. So some motherboards have a little horizontal jack for a CNVI Wi-Fi card, like a lot of the ASRock ones do. But we've just got a little enclosed one there at the back. It makes mounting them so much easier because I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is put an I/O shield on the back of this. It comes pre-mounted, pre-configured, but you'll see me from time to time install a CNVI Wi-Fi card and an antenna, and I'll run that out the back. It's a little bit more fiddly and stuff like that, but it doesn't really take me too much extra time to do that. So when I can save the customer like $10 or something like that on their Wi-Fi, we just go with that option if the board facilitates it. And so we've got gigabit Ethernet, 4 USB 3.0s, we've got some display ports here. None of these will be in use for this build because we've got an F-series Intel chip. So all the F-series Intel CPUs, all the F means, it doesn't mean it's like a lower quality or anything like that. If it has an F, it just means it doesn't have the onboard graphics GPU on the CPU. So that's the difference. Basically, Intel make two sorts of CPUs. They're non-F CPUs, which have the onboard graphics, and they're F CPUs, which don't have the onboard graphics. So that's essentially all it is. So if you've got a computer and you've got an Intel CPU and it's the F model and you're thinking, oh, what's that? Does that mean mine's not as good or something like that? It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that because your computer is the setup where you have a expensive gaming graphics card, that's going to do your video outputs. We don't need the GPU on the CPU die because we're installing a discrete GPU for this build. So that's why Intel make them with and without onboard graphics. AMD do the same thing, but they kind of do it in reverse, because if they don't have that, they have the letter G at the end if it's got onboard graphics. Nice and easy, G for graphics, right? But basically, if their CPUs don't have any letter, or they don't have the letter G specifically, then an AMD CPU doesn't have onboard graphics. So just a little point to note there with the names, because a lot of people get confused. They see the F, they think there's like, that's like the inferior model, and then they see that it's cheaper than the non-F, and they're like, oh, that's got to be the cheap, shitty one. And it's like, it's not like that at all, guys. There's two different sorts of CPUs that they make fundamentally, like when they make the actual chip itself, the ones that have the onboard graphics, and the ones that don't have the onboard graphics. Anyway, going on here a little bit longer than what I usually do. So we've got two M2 slots here, another little fan header, we've got our PCIe X16 slot, two little X1 slots down here as well, and a little chipset heatsink there. So this is where our B560 actually lives. Obviously our CMOS battery, and this little header here is our clear CMOS header. So that will erase any of the settings that we've saved into BIOS, and will bring the motherboard back to factory settings. So if you ever stuff something up and your computer won't turn on, always work out where your clear CMOS header is, and then just touch those two little pins with the tip of your screwdriver. Your computer will turn on like you've pressed the off button. And then when it turns back on, it'll take a little bit longer to turn on the first time, but that's because it's just going through, like, it's basically like it's being turned on for the first time. It's got to re-recognize all the things that are plugged into it and stuff. And then once it's come back, it's just going to be at the default settings, and then you can hopefully set it up without making it crash again. Anyway, so that's all the main features here on this motherboard. So let's actually get started, because I can't just keep talking and expect the PC to get built.
No.
Yeah. Hey Nick, how you going?
Nick.
Oh, Mick. Sorry, I always get you guys mixed up.
Andy says no news on 12th Gen.
On 12th Gen? No, so I didn't get it today. I'm assuming the package has arrived in Brisbane, so it's at the airport. So I would be assuming it will be on board for delivery for me tomorrow. It says Wednesday online, but I don't trust it. I normally, when I see something that's come express and I see it at Brisbane Airport, it's at my house usually at 7:30 a.m. the next day, because I'm late. I'm not far from the airport. I'm literally like on the other side of the Brisbane River from the airport. So if you pretty much walked, near me, on the side of the river, that's pretty much where the airport is. So not usually any issues getting freight out this way. Alrighty, so we'll start with our CPU. So I don't even know why Intel have bothered to include a stock cooler with any of their i7s, to be completely honest. Like, maybe when i7s were 6-core CPUs, but 8 cores on an stock cooler. Really, guys? So this little stock cooler will live to see another day. It's not going to live a stressful existence trying to cool down a CPU that's much too powerful for it. Yeah. Oh, mate, there you go. And it's a 3080 tonight, so happy days. Always love it when it's a when it's one of the you know, more high-end ones. It's just you can live vicariously through whoever's getting the build. So even if you can't afford a 3080 or you can't justify. So a lot of us can afford it, but we can't justify it. You know what I mean? So if you can't justify it, you can live vicariously through the people who are getting one built for real. Alrighty, so we've got our Corsair Memory here. Got a few compatibility issues with this stuff, but been able to resolve it. There we go. And where is our M2 drive? Hard drive sitting on top of it. I'm sitting there going, I don't have an M2 drive for this. I have to give me a spare. I kind of don't like this packaging. It's a little bit dodgy. Alrighty, I think we'll use that bottom header because our graphics card's gonna all but obscure that header. Plug this in down here, and then we'll leave that top slot there free so Tim can add another M2 SSD. Ah, yes. Yeah, so Tim won't be watching live tonight. He's out at a work thing tonight. So he'll be watching in tomorrow, but that's all right. Not everyone can be there at night. I understand that. I'd like to do extra ones during the day, but then I don't have enough hours in the day to talk to the customers, to place the orders, to kind of do all that. So, like I said, I might have to hire someone. A few other things I've got to do before I do that, but we'll get there. So anyway, let's get started on our actual cooler, a much more appropriate cooler for this CPU. So with all-in-one liquid coolers, one of the things that a lot of people don't realise is that the majority of them like the vast majority of them, all come from two different places. They all come from either Acertec. So out of everyone, every brand that you see out there, they're pretty much coming out of two different factories. And out of those factories, there's only a few different designs, and you know, like patents that they sell to people and stuff. So when you buy an all-in-one liquid cooler, the differences in performance between the units very, very small. Okay, so yes, you can get a higher performance one, but it will cost a lot more. But if you look at coolers around the same price, you know, within about $50 of each other, in general, they're going to perform pretty much the same. They're not all going to perform exactly the same. Some of them, you'll actually, if you examine them closely, you can see that they're actually like the same units with like a slightly different like faceplate. Start to examine it a bit closer, you're like, oh, this is, you could look up exactly what particular patent that they've used for that cooler. So a lot of the quality standards between them are relatively consistent, because obviously, like a brand like Silverstone, for example, they don't want to be putting their brand on coolers that like leak and damage customers' systems. Because the one way that you're never ever going to have a customer again, guaranteed no return business, is when your liquid cooler bursts all over their computer. Guaranteed they're never coming back to you. No matter what, you can do whatever you want to try and bring that customer back, and they won't be coming back. Alrighty, so we've got a back plate here that we need to prep. So make myself a little tray for these bolts. Okay, so we've got 3 different socket designs here for our cooler.
Tim,
Yeah.
Emma wants to know, do you have any idea why an MSI motherboard would have a white DRAM light on and no display? Tried different RAM and everything, and now PC is flash BIOSing, and it's been flashing for about an hour.
Flashing for about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound too good. Whereabouts are you, Bella? Are you local? Can you bring it in? Because that doesn't sound right. Like a BIOS flash should only take North Brisbane. I'm at Tingalpa, so I can come out to you. There's a $55 call out fee, or I'm at Tingalpa. You're welcome to bring it in. I can have a look at it here. You can drop in any time. Just look me up on Google. All right. Our back plate on, and that just fits on nicely on the back there. And obviously it is much easier to do this when the motherboard is out of the case. Like, I know that might sort of sound a little bit obvious, but it is significantly more difficult, let's say, to do this when it is in a case. It is not impossible, and there's like a strategy that you can use to make it a little bit easier on yourself. So yeah, diagnosis will be like, you know, that would probably be for free if it's just the motherboard not turning on, just to tell you what's wrong with it. I'll tell you what's wrong with it for free, and then yeah, I'll get you a price on the parts for repair, and we'll go from there. Simple. So the good thing about these Silverstone coolers, it doesn't have an adjustable like LED panel there, but it has a perfectly symmetrical, 360-degree symmetrical snowflake pattern. So you can position these cables however you want. You can orientate this block any direction that you want. So if you're thinking, oh, okay, I want it to be like this, you could do it like that. Or you could go, oh no, I don't really want it like that. I want it, sorry, just get these cables positioned. I want to have it like this, around the other way, or whatever. You don't have to worry about, oh shit, the block won't be the right way up or something like that, which can be pretty frustrating for some people because you can't get the cables going in the direction that you want. So I'm going to use a little bit of Arctic silver here. Crap, I'm just going to... I lost the lid to it and I've just left it there, and it just had a little bit of cat hair. So I'm assuming that Tim probably doesn't want cat hair on his CPU, in between the CPU and the cooler block. Yeah. He's probably not going to be a fan of that. Like, okay. So in this case we have a rear fan, so I generally don't like the cables to obstruct the rear fan, so I'll generally put it on this direction. So it's going on like this, so I always consider where my fan cables are going to be running. Believe me, that is a very frustrating thing to go through when you've got it all done and you've put the whole cooler together, and then you realise that the fans are around the wrong way and you've got cables sticking out the front side. Real painful shit. Tightened down. And so it should go without saying that when it comes to liquid coolers, the to have a bigger surface area to radiate the heat away, because you can run the liquid through a big radiator. And if you look at, like, oh, I don't even have a spare CPU air cooler. I got like a stock cooler maybe. So if you look at this stock cooler, that metal heat sink there, that is the total surface area that can radiate the heat away from the CPU. If we look at the size of the radiator on this, you can see it's a significantly bigger radiator. So that's where the extra cooling capacity actually comes from, because we're attaching fans to this radiator. So what's doing the cooling? It's not the liquid. The liquid's a vector. The liquid just transfers heat away and it moves through the radiator and the air cools it down. Wind chill factor. That's what does it. So that's the advantage with liquid coolers, is you can have a much bigger area to radiate the heat away. So the factors involved in the performance of a liquid cooler is the size of the radiator and how good the pump is. How much liquid can you move through the radiator per second? You know, if it's a bit slower and all that, then it might not work as efficiently. If it's good, got really good dynamics with the pump and how the fluid moves through, then it's going to be better. Okay, so put all those cables together. So one thing I always like to do is make sure that I've got the power and RGB cables tucked away underneath one of the arms, so it looks neater in the case. And then with this, we've just got a couple of bolts, just sort of flick them tight just with one finger. Just enough so it's held down. Alrighty. And then you can tighten down. And so best practice is to go opposite corners. So pick a corner, tighten it down, then pick the opposite corner, and tighten it down. And then it doesn't really matter which order you do the next two bolts in because you're locked into that opposite corner pattern after you do the first two. And that way, when you sort of push down on it at first, right, you're spreading it like diagonally across the square, so it's nice and kind of like even, and it sort of spreads. If you watch, there are videos you can watch on YouTube about thermal paste and like how it spreads down when you put a cooler onto it and stuff. And so if you do it opposite corners, generally it will just have a nice, more even spread pattern. So also having the right pattern on the CPU can help as well, and that can vary depending on the thermal compound that you're actually using. They've got different viscosities, so the pattern that you would apply can be slightly different. And that's why you'll see, you know, you talk to 10 different PC techs, you'll probably find they use 10 different thermal paste patterns on the CPU. So, alright, we've got our board all prepped and ready to go. So, let me put the cables back into the position that I wanted them for this, which will be essentially like that. So I'll just hold that up for you, kind of see. It'll be positioned like that. We'll get our cables at the back there.
I'm going to put my feet down in this cabin right underneath me.
Oh, really? You want to sit like that? Yeah, cool. Alright, we got a, so just a generic RGB controller, we don't need that. LGA 2011, that's as good as dead these days. Alrighty, so we'll turn our attention now to the case. So this is the Deep Cool Matrex 55. So back here we've got 2 hard drive trays. We've got multiple spots here where we could mount SSDs to the side back here. Plenty of room for the power supply and stuff down there. Obviously full-size ATX case. It'll even fit eATX motherboards, I believe. Yeah, there'll be room for eATX in there. So a very versatile case, and you can pick these up for $60. But the only thing I'll caution you with, it's a nice case, looks good, has good features. It's got 3 USB ports on the front here. The only thing I'll caution you with, it doesn't even include a black exhaust fan at the back there. So if you're shopping on a budget for a case and you don't have like all of these other fans and coolers and stuff that you're going to be adding to it, that's the only thing that you need to consider with this case, is that you will have to add your own fans to it. So that can push up the cost of it a little bit. So just watch out for that when shopping for your own case. But as for if you're planning a build like this, and you know fans are a part of the component list there, it's not going to be a problem. And it's good because you're kind of not paying for any fans, because a lot of people, if it's got a couple of black fans in it, they just end up getting taken out and just put in a box and never used again. So that's just stuff that the person pays for that they don't even really need, because at the end of the day, they're going to go and buy a couple of 3 packs of Corsair fans or something nice and put them in there instead. So really, that is a tight cable tie. And we got a little bag of bits and pieces. Okay. So for our front panel, yes, this one has room for us to mount them at the front, I'm pretty sure. My memory serves me right. Yeah, there's plenty of room there. Okay. 1. 2 and 3. Alrighty, so we will use this fan splitter here. That will come in handy. So we'll probably put that, I'm just going to plug it into our CPU header and we'll run that behind the board when we put it in. So it looks a lot nicer when the fans are on the front because it's closer to the mesh on the front. And as you can imagine, that makes the fans look brighter and bigger at the front compared to if they're situated further back. And if we just had 3 on the front, that might mean that our case could be a little bit dark, but because we're going to have an RGB fan on the back and also at the top on our radiator, just get that lined up right before I tighten. Stick these cables. And number 2. So I could only get 2 screw holes in the bottom there, but we'll fix that later. What's up?
Oh, nothing. It's just the big box.
Oh. That's looked up, you're like screwing your face up, that you're obviously trying to read the... I was like, what's wrong? The one thing you'll see at the top here is a bit of a legacy thing. See how there's like they use this chassis for other designs where they have the 5¼ inch drive up there. Alrighty. Last one. It's always fun screwing fans in. It's probably the funnest part of building a PC. Let's just do the same 4 things over and over again. Who doesn't love that? serious. It's getting frustrating. Series. I've like a millimeter short up the top, so I have to slightly loosen all these bolts, slide it down an almost imperceivable distance, and then continue. And these are the sort of little minor things that will do your head in it when you build your first PC. What's wrong, babe? Oh. Yep. That'll do it. Oh, I'll help you. I'll help you. We'll knock it out after the build. It's all good, babe.
Sick.
Huh?
I feel like I'm gonna be sick.
Okay. We're nearly home. Just have this back one to do. So for now, I'm just going to leave that with just one screw in it. And the reason is because when we install the cooler, we might want a little bit of extra room to position the cooler up the top. So I don't want that fan to be in the way. As for all this stuff up front, there we go. So I should have got this out of the box first, but I will need some SATA cables and the I/O shield. Probably don't need anything else in that box. Hey John, how you going? Oh, I just noticed this board has 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on it. So watch out. Not that our NBN can support 2.5 gigabits. Even like the best business plans that I see are like 1,000 down and stuff. Like, man. Internet was meant to be sorted by now, you know? Internet was meant to be dealt with last decade. Look, no, that didn't help Rupert Murdoch. I'll shut up now. Ugh, the NBN's just... ugh. I think my sigh is really all you have to say about the NBN. Alrighty, so we'll get our 3.5-inch hard drive installed. So that's always... oh, what's that? That was a silicon packet that fell down into my computer. Oh yeah, that lines up. I was looking at it and thinking that it didn't line up properly. This bolt should be fine. Drives, really important that they're mounted correctly and stuff, because hard drives have moving parts, and as a result they need to be held very, very, very tight so that the vibrations don't destroy them over time. Okay, so we've got a semi-modular unit here. So we've got some cables to plug in and maybe not to plug in. No, I think we'll probably plug all of these cables in. So I am going to use at least one Molex, and we're definitely going to need some graphics card power. And we're going to need at least one SATA cable.
Have you taken a photo of your letter yet?
Yes.
Do you want me to chuck it out or do
Yeah,
you
you can chuck it.
I kind of want to keep it anyway.
No, don't keep it. I got a letter from Ovies. As if they're trying to communicate with like the modern world with letters written in cursive. How cute is that?
I couldn't even read it. Like,
Yeah, my wife can't even read it.
like, I can read cursive, but not that cursive.
Yeah, no,
That
I
is
can.
like a chicken walking across a freaking page.
No, see, see, my mum is my mum.
Yeah, oh, what? I can read your mum's handwriting, and she's got really bad cursive.
She's got bad cursive, man. So
That is next level.
that's nearly doctor stuff. That's nearly doctor level writing.
The doctors. Please read her writing.
You can actually read her writing, yeah, but she's not a medical doctor.
No.
See, if she was a medical doctor, you would not. It would be completely illegible.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, how cute's that? Trying to communicate with people in gated communities with letters written in cursive in 2021. Wow. Alrighty. So in this case, we don't even have the option to mount our power with the fan upwards. We can only mount it face down here. So with this particular case, you wouldn't want to be positioning it on carpet, or your computer might unexplainably shut down for no apparent reason while you're using it. And you'll be like, what's wrong? I don't know what's wrong. And it'll be your power supply overheating. And then when the power supply overheats, it's just like, nah. Just the switch just flicks and the power goes off. And then you won't be able to turn your computer on for a while afterwards. So that'll freak you out more and you'll think that like it's completely dead. So don't do that. You'll have a bad time. Put it on a little bit of cardboard or something, just some sort of solid material that's not carpet, because the legs sink into the carpet and, yeah, I'm sure you'll get it. Okay, so I'm going to deal with all of these.
Oh, hopefully there's enough paper in the fucking print.
I
Oh, I don't want to do. Why is it making me do this? Why do I have to do this?
No, you don't need PDF filler. You're just printing a form. Just download the PDF file and print it. Okay, so I've plugged in that SATA cable to our hard drive. And we can stash all of those excess cables away. She figured it out?
No, it was. This one was hidden. It kept bringing up that same website in multiple different links. That's why it was hard to find what I wanted to find.
Okay. So now we're just left with motherboard, CPU, and graphics card. And sorry, my wife has to print out a very long form. 28 pages. So definitely a bit of formage right there. Okay. Alright, it's time to put our motherboard in the case. So we'll just lie it down. Gotta play all kinds of weird games to position these right. Oh, jeez, after all that, I haven't put the micro RTX offsets in place. That might be recommended. Oh, and this doesn't have the other ones either. So they only include the offsets for the skinny RTX boards with only 6 screw holes. In? Yes. Big fuck. And I'm going to put in the other RTX board, just in case Tim ever wants to upgrade his motherboard, and he doesn't have to worry about, oh, there's an offset missing.
It's printing. I had to have more paper. I couldn't find the paper. I'm like, what the fuck fucking cabinet were you talking about? It's on top of the stereo.
Yeah, the cabinet thing.
There's multiple cabinets, Tim.
But there's a thing of reflex on top of the cabinet right next to the printer.
I found it. Tim,
Yeah.
let's see what's better, 3080 Ti or 3090.
Well, that's an interesting question. Let's see. Why don't Christine try to answer this? Let's see how your knowledge is going.
No.
No? No putting you on the spot. That's not much fun.
Well, I thought they were like pretty much muchness almost.
Yep. So a 3090 is going to be about 5% faster at gaming than a 3080 Ti, and about 8% faster than a normal 3080. So what we're talking about is very, very small little single digits in performance variation, but they're like $1,000 more expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only reason why you'd probably go 3090 is if you've got the money to just chuck away.
Money to
Almost.
chuck away, or
Well,
you.
it's not really chucking away,
If you've got like, for example, if you've got VRAM,
yeah,
then
that's another reason why
like
you'd
the
go
3090 is really what you want. So they are aiming the 3090. They're not really aiming it at gamers. They're aiming it at gamers who want to flex,
They're
essentially.
aiming at you really as like professionals.
Yeah.
who want to use,
The 3090 is essentially a card for like professional workstations and stuff. That's the wrong size screw, really? Yeah.
Good value for money at the moment.
No, definitely not. So, is the 3090 a good card for gaming? Probably.
Sure.
I mean, it's a
Fine
good
for
card for
gaming.
gaming, but would I recommend
And it
it?
shines other things.
Would I recommend?
Like number crunching sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Or
Or anything
video editing.
anything that can use that VRAM.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Somebody who looks at statistics all the time.
Yeah.
That might be handy.
This is really doing my head in here.
What's wrong? Holy crap. I'm just looking up Regis Windows, one of the fanciest places. I didn't know that. Career opportunities, maybe I'd have to redo my certs.
Okay. So we've got one screw hole in the motherboard there. And so the reason is because we've got a micro ATX board in a ATX case here.
Oh, the other one that your mum's couldn't think of that's nearby is Bulimba.
Ah, Bulimba.
That
Yeah.
would actually be nice because that suburb's actually quite
But that's
fancy.
Bulimba's, yeah.
They're fancy as fuck over there.
Yeah.
It's like Ascot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, basically. There's a friendly grove one.
Oh, yeah. Stick it up there. So there's not really too much we can do with this USB 3 with a horizontal port.
I think I know exactly where this is. It's on Preston Road.
Yeah.
It's literally just around the corner.
Yeah. Actually, let's get
Oh, cool. Tell me they do gardening where people can go out plant vegetables and stuff like that.
not yet.
Ooh, Papa would love that. Oh shit, this place has a freaking seminal library, day spa, hair salon, outdoor, indoor. Bus excursions. Almost feel like it's 2 minutes.
Mm.
If her pension can afford them. Always forget about the calculator buttons.
Of course, I forgot that this case has these silly breakout panels, and this board has the audio capacitors right next to the panel I need to break out. The end one out, it's easy to get the other one. Okay. That's the shittiest blanking panel ever. Okay. So we are starting to come together here. Quite conveniently. And we will run that one. Yeah.
The second highest suite that I was in at Regis Place, mine would have $6.10 left. It's $53.28.
I'm not sure how that works when they're in an aged care. Like, I think she gets more than that.
Yeah, that's paying for like the room and stuff like that. Like she will get like all her food and stuff like that. Maybe because she's on disability, she might actually get it cheaper.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
I'm just looking at the premium piece.
Just remember we're live.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I don't care. She won't watch it. She really won't.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, we're making life decisions.
Yeah, we're making life decisions, you know.
Brian says I'll just get a 710 GT for gaming.
I've got a guy. I think he's one of the many I need to get back to. He unfortunately bought a PC that he thought was a gaming PC and had a GT 710 and an i5 6500 or something. So yeah, he wasn't having a
How
very.
much did he pay for
I
it?
didn't ask.
Grab that form. This one says it.
I think, who was it? Was it? I'm pretty sure Dorwood. If anyone's familiar with the YouTube channel, Dorwood does tech stuff. I'm pretty sure he's done a video where he like games on a GT 710. Like he actually like runs games like at resolutions that the GT 710 can kind of like make playable for you. And yeah, it's kind of funny. I think he's playing like, you know, 600p and stuff like that. Yeah, it games, but just not at like resolutions and yeah, whatnot that we use in the modern world. Like the GT 710 runs like old games fine, man. You run like old something like Command and Conquer, no worries. The GT 710 will handle that. I wonder what the GT 710 would do with Command and Conquer Remastered.
Ooh.
Because that's at 4K, or up to 4K resolution. I reckon we could run it. We could run it at lower res.
It might look similar to. No, I won't. It'll look better than the original. It will still be kind of.
It'll look better than the PlayStation original. Oh.
I never knew it was on PlayStation.
Oh, that one's a bad one.
I only knew it on PC.
That was like one of the worst ports of a game ever.
Ew. Was that like? Was it originally on PS?
No, originally on PC.
Oh.
It was one of
Did
the.
they-
When, you know how Sony like used to have like every fucking game on PlayStation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of that era.
Oh, okay. So
Where they were
just
just
had to
porting,
have-
they were just porting as much stuff as they could.
Yeah.
They were just selling it to everyone
Yeah.
and basically meeting them at their price so they could get the content. But then, as a result, there's some pretty
Some of the
there's some
games
pretty
were
poor
really-
there's some pretty poor PS1 games out there. We can all sort of look back and laugh. Precious memories.
See all these games with nostalgia.
Yep. Okay, there's one bundle of fan cables. I'm gonna try to tie all these up together.
Love the anti-static bags, don't you, mate?
Okay.
No.
No, that's a. Can you roll me a smudge?
I've already rolled over the stove. She doesn't need it that much. She smokes too much.
I know. Okay. So that's all looking pretty good at the back here. Just got these RGB cables to configure. And then we've just got this Molex cable for our pump. So just make sure that your Molex cable is definitely plugged in and definitely making good contact. Sometimes they can get pushed out of place when you plug them in and the pins aren't actually connected properly, and obviously that's not ideal. Alright, I don't like the position of these SATA cables, so I'm going to put them in these bottom two. Oh, actually, no, this card's going to cover that. I will leave them there, and they can just get out the top there, because no one will see that anyway. There we go. Alright. So as for, we only have one header for RGB, so we're going to daisy chain all this stuff up. So daisy chaining, if you just don't know, I'll explain it really quickly. So you've got these male and female ports for the RGB cable. So obviously the female has the holes and the male has the pins. So what it means is you can plug this female one onto the male pins on the motherboard, and then you have another 3 pins, just like the 3 pins on the motherboard, on the end of this cable. So then I can go and plug another one in, like that. And this one also has another one of these male headers. And I can then plug in another one. And I can repeat that all the way up. And then we've just got the one cable onto the one header on the motherboard, and it's going to power all devices. So there is a wattage. There is a.
Daisy chaining.
What's that?
That is what you call daisy chaining.
Yes, this is daisy chaining. Has nothing to do with Daisy the cow. All right. So we've got our one item plugged in there, and we can just go ahead and plug in everything else. So it's really simple. You're just going to want to ideally tie your cables up. Hang on, I'm going to need, because some of these fans aren't daisy chainable, so I'm going to need change our configuration here slightly. So this is where it gets a bit complicated. So you've got some fans that are daisy chainable. You've only got one RGB header on the motherboard, so we need to go from the one RGB header on the motherboard, one 5-volt that is, to this splitter. So it's got 2 male, 1 female on it. We can run that cable out the back. We can plug this onto the header. It seems like it fits a bit tighter as well, which is good. And then we can plug that daisy chain, plug that in. And then we've got a few other cables here to plug in. So yeah.
Religious community, they
Oh, yeah.
This is old bloke, he's like, this bloke oh jeez. This dude that's like, what's his name? That we met. I'm doing our culture course. That old bloke.
Oh, yeah. What was his name?
I can't remember it, but I can see his face.
So I could use that Cooler Master controller, but I'm pretty sure I've got...
This is his house. You should know.
Yeah, he's got a name.
Oh, that's cute. Him and his wife, he plays drums and she sings. Oh. They even do like Skyping with like people overseas.
Where the fuck did my thing full of cables go? Seriously? I think in such a small space that you wouldn't lose stuff, but there's too much stuff in the small space.
I know. I've been thinking of getting you these like organizer like hanging things that you can hang from the doors, but I don't know if it'll take too much space. Would that be good?
Yeah, possibly. Like I had a little thing full of all of my RGB screen cables. I literally got them all together.
Yeah, I know, and you had them in a bag. Did you
Yeah.
accidentally chuck them?
No,
I certainly
no.
didn't.
No. Definitely not.
Regis, they have like restaurants where you can actually like sit down and have like restaurant quality meals with like, you know, maybe everything. I probably love that. This place is really nice. It's actually quite affordable.
Well, I got some pins for this Cooler Master controller that I could use, but it's really frustrating me that I can't find. You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just like a little gremlins coming and taking everything. The fuck, Tim?
No.
No.
Don't fucking worry. I
Aw.
just.
I've been thinking about it for a while. I really want to know where it is too.
Because it fucking screws me up when
don't have
I
the
know,
right
every
cables.
stream you always talk about it. I'm like, where is it? I don't know. Over here. No!
Oh, what did you do?
No, 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 no.
She broke something. It's my fault.
I broke a teacup.
Oh.
That's alright, I've got other ones. But I don't have a mat, like a special serving saucer for them anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Alright,
That cost me $10.
I've got a single splitter.
I need the vacuum cleaner now. This is like, it's charred.
Alright, if I just get one more splitter, then we're sorted. Surely I've got another splitter around here. 10 minutes later.
Sorry. Started to suck my dress off.
Fuck's sake.
I'm sorry. Now what are you looking for?
Uh-huh.
I said, now what are you looking for?
The same thing. I just don't know where it's... This is
Is it
very...
downstairs? I'll have a look.
Have a look. Really sorry about this, everyone. It's pretty annoying when this sort of shit happens. If I had more hours in the day, I wouldn't be wasting time right now, would I? Not downstairs. It's very frustrating because, like, I know that it exists. I know I've got shitloads of what I'm looking for.
I know. I swear to God, it's accident. You could have chopped it out, maybe.
Nah, but
But why?
why would I chuck
Why
out
would either
the
one of
thing
us
that I
see-
just put
Yeah, I
put
know.
together? Like, I wouldn't do that.
No, I know.
Maybe you might have to do an ad hoc thing.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll have to cut some cables and do a bit of splicing. Literally at that point.
It's not. Like, I'm looking for a bag full of cables, aren't I?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's one of those.
Because the box that I
Yeah.
had them in got damaged, and I put them in a bag because
Yeah,
I
it's
was
one
like,
of those ones with the long bits of
Yeah,
air in it.
yeah.
Yes. Yes, I knew what I was looking for, but it's not there. It's not downstairs.
Tim's done his magic again and hidden stuff.
okay. If that's how it's going to be, it's how it's going to be. Now, is this the correct cable for this? No.
Have you gotten rid of all those things?
I've used them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need this one,
No.
It's taking very much
Okay, so we've got a cable here for this controller.
Tim,
What's up?
when John says I fucking hate it when I can't find shit. I feel your pain, mate.
Mate, it's a big bag of cables. It shouldn't be something that should fucking go
No,
missing.
That's the thing.
That is why I'm so frustrated.
The bag should be approximately
Like that.
this size.
It's not something that should go missing. I literally keep it at my feet so I can always grab it.
I know.
It's frustrating.
But
No, that's okay. It's okay. We have a solution to the problem here tonight.
yay.
So that's all good. We
Maybe
can
if
stop.
we can't find that bag, maybe Tim needs to do some buying.
Maybe you need to take a day off and help me clean it.
Maybe I should quit my job and I be the helper. Eh?
Maybe, maybe.
How many votes for that? 10 votes for me.
Alright. So I'll just take these bolts out the motherboard here quickly, because I've just got one other cable that I want to just slide down the back. Oh. Oh, this has got like a big. It's got a big thing on it.
What do you mean? Oh, the clippy thing.
So you don't put it in the wrong way. But it's a USB 2, so you already can't really put it in the wrong way.
John says someone's been in there, mate, or is it the cat?
Oh, fucking.
Or maybe it was
Oh,
that
wouldn't
dodgy person we saw in the car park when we got home the other night. They gave us death step. That was really weird.
Well, who the hell were they?
I don't know. I've never seen that car or person before. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what the hell? They were parked in our spot out the front, and when they pulled out, they just like stopped and pulled up next to Tim, gave him this fucked up look, and then drove off.
Yeah, he tried to give me this like serial killer look, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, the fuck, cunt? This is not your fucking house. This is not your place. You're the one who shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get offended at me, fucking sitting there waiting for you to fucking leave.
He was like looking at his phone for a while, and then he saw us waiting there with your indicator on.
Probably trying to buy drugs or something. Probably waiting for someone to get home who lives in the complex.
Possibly.
That's
Who
that's
knows?
probably what it was.
There's like
and then he
50 units.
and then
here,
he's
who
gotten
knows?
and then he's gotten the shits that like another resident's come along and made him move. But then why give me the stare, man? Like
Yeah,
if
why
you're
stop there? There's
if-
literally signs saying there's CCTV.
yeah.
There is. I
How's
just
that?
don't know where they are.
But there's no evidence that he stole my bag of cables.
Oh,
Let's
fuck
just-
no. Why would he steal your cables?
Well, we were talking about it. We were saying that.
Yeah, I guess, but... oh, fuck Tim. I'm going downstairs. Don't like that guy. Really pisses me off. Hey, you had one of them the other day.
Oh man, I had a guy today who was like,
Oh.
I had a guy today who was like, oh, how long do you have is interest free for on ZipPay? And I'm like, oh, 6 months. And he's like, oh, well, if you had 12 months, then yeah, I'd buy from you. And I just stopped him there. I'm like, okay, mate, if I offered 12 months interest free, Zip charged me 8.7% interest on that 12 months interest free. So I can't absorb 8.7% margin on like a $4,000 computer.
Yeah, no.
I can't just absorb that. I'm not making 50% profit here, okay? So I told him I was just straight. I'm straight up with everyone, and I was just straight with him, and I just told him, look, mate, I don't offer 12 months because that means that I would be charging customers even more for a Zip transaction, and it wouldn't be worth their while to do that. And then he got the shits with me because I was apparently being rude to him by not like sucking up his ass at his
But-
like 12-month request.
No,
It seemed.
sorry.
And then I was just straight up. I just said, man, look, like don't apologise to me. Don't say sorry that you can't do it because we only do 6 months and you want 12 months. Don't apologise
Go
for
to
that.
Harvey Norman.
Yeah, exactly. Go to Harvey Norman. He's got the scale to do the deals to get you like interest free. It's not interest free anyway. You get charged. Like, what do you think a monthly account keeping fee is? Okay, that is interest. Okay, it's just not called interest. Okay, like they just fool the people in the know in the business community and stuff. Run circles around average consumers, confusing the fuck out of them with economics.
Tim.
Yeah.
Tom says bashing and asking where the fuck are my cables, you fuck out.
Exactly. It's like that. Oh man, look, I've had to like pull these cables out now and made
Sorry?
a freaking mess of it back here again.
Isn't it your job to do this? Like...
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so for this Cooler Master controller, we have these little pins that we need to plug in. We don't actually, no, we don't need it for all of them. We could technically do it without, because we could use the male pins on our daisy chainable fans to plug directly into these female holes. But we've got these male to female converters. So, cable sex change operation going down right now. Okay. So now I'm just going to plug these into this controller. Oh shit, that's a tight fit.
Your mum didn't tell me about some booklet thing. It should be included in this form. Maybe I don't really need that form, just because your mum didn't say anything about it.
What form?
It's she needed to know about messages from each request for line assets or income assessment. I don't think I really need that.
No, possibly not. Okay. Starting to make some sense of all this shit again.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay. My anxiety levels have reduced slightly now, which is good. So one thing to note is that we will need to install some software for this controller. So when we first turn the computer on, we're not going to see the RGB light up, but that's not a problem. We'll install that pretty much as soon as we get into Windows. Okay. So around the front here we've got our RTX power, the main power for our motherboard. And so just going to wrap that around as discreetly as we can there. And we'll tie that cable down at the back. So we've got all of our fans, all of our RGB hooked up. So we can now turn our attention to the graphics card. Oh yes, we do get this little
Thank God
bracket.
she doesn't own anything, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like 3/4 of like this. Here we go.
So I'll let Tim actually mess. It says what's your game, and it sits there just below the graphics card. You don't have to have it installed, it is optional, but see, some people don't like them, some people do, so I'll leave that up to the customer.
Tim,
Yeah.
John says, so what are you doing? What it's for?
What's what for? Alrighty. Huh?
What happened to the first few pages?
Oh, they got caught. Yeah. That'll happen. Okay. I don't care about that. As long as the form's readable, that's all I care about. Alrighty. Let's check out this tank of a card. Come around here and show it to you.
Oh, she doesn't have a partner.
Show you what's special about this particular card. Alrighty, so this is the Galaxy RTX 3080. So we have RGB fans on the actual card. In addition to that, we have, look at this, we have a full blow-through design, and there is actually an auxiliary fan, which is also RGB, that we can attach on the top. So that'll go on, should just click on. Just like that. And that's got a little RGB in right over here. So plug that in, and they give you a bit of room there to discreetly run the cable. Sweet as. So yeah, a chunky, very chunky card, full 3-slot card. So it's only 2 slots at the back, but as you can see, it has a full extra slot worth of thickness. So it is a chunky card. Looks like we might not be able to fit that, but we might have to fit it later.
You know what's going to make it
you have power of attorney?
Yeah.
Oh, true. Oh,
Fucking oath I do.
oh do you?
She signed that over to me. I like signed shit for the.
Oh,
for
that makes it easy.
Because I'm the only one that's going to be looking out for her.
Yep. I know.
See?
Yeah.
John says with the cables is what I was on about. Lisa, what are you doing for the RGB cables?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we've hooked them up to a Cooler Master RGB controller. So that particular controller plugs in via USB. So it's completely fine. There's no do exactly what any other RGB controller will do. It just has its own software. So like it's got its own version of like Armory Crate to go with it. It's actually better than and more reliable than Armory Crate from what I've seen. So
They try, but they're not trying hard enough.
they're Asus, man. They've got plenty of resources to try.
Take a card out of fucking Corsair's book.
Yeah, Corsair.
Like they've got some
The
really
Lexus,
nice RGB.
the Lexus of
shit going on.
computers. Actually, no, they be.
Oh, I don't know, American cars. I don't know. The RAM, they're usually pretty fucking nice. Well, this ones that you see get around in Australia are, but
Okay. So, all we've got left to hook up here is just our graphics card power cables. So, I'm thinking I'm going to come straight up from down the bottom here. Yeah.
which one's this puppy or is this one?
No, that's alright. Oh, sweet.
So,
These connectors are upside down. So normally you have to tie the connectors, and that's at the front of the cable. These ones, I can conceal it all at the back and make it look nice and neat.
yay!
It's one of those little frustrating things. The orientation of these power ports on various graphics cards can be a real pain in the ass.
It's a chunky card.
It is a chunky card. The first one of these that I installed was the 3090.
Yes, I remember that. It was heavy as.
There we go. Number one. Perfect. Okay. And so it looks like our RAM is just a little bit too tight there for that fan. And there's no, I can't mount it this way, can I? Oh, I probably could with a little bit of engineering. hold that thought. Okay, so we'll just tie up these cables here. Much in business, a little bit of stuff to tidy up at the back there and tie down, but it's not too big a deal. There we go, it's looking nice and clean there. Just that one cable there, and it kind of takes away from that USB 3 that you've just got to run through like that. There we go, so everything's reasonably tidy back there. Like I always say, I don't like to tie things down too excessively at the back, because if you ever have to change something, it's a real pain. At the back anyway, so. Can't find your phone. It probably is. You're good at that sort of stuff. Alright. So we will plug in keyboard and mouse, a display port cable, good tight fitting one. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I like tight fitting HDMI and DisplayPort plugs. There we go. It's all looking good. Power going on. I don't believe any of the RGB will come on unless that controller is going to be doing something weird. It's on independent mode.
This thing wants us to clear our stuff.
Yeah. So that should be right. So why aren't I seeing? Why aren't I seeing? we just got a port conflict here? What's the deal? What's going on?
But where's 21? Didn't print 21.
There we go. Stupid thing.
I have to reprint this.
Why? What's wrong?
No.
Move my phone, I'll enter their key now. Took a photo of it. All right. Can you?
Stop touching the mouse.
Okay, so now that we've done that, can you all put these SATA cables in place?
Hey Tim, one of the Regis homes, they're doing cooking for homeless people.
Oh, true.
Oldies are getting together and meals for homeless people.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
nice. They look like they're having so much fun. After working in a home that was pretty shit, and it was a nice home. Oh gosh. I don't like the difference between them. The difference between like shit homes and good homes, they should all be the same. They all hold people deserve the same, in my opinion. Why can't they all be like this?
Australia. Alrighty, let's plug some internet in. Alrighty. They really want you to use Edge. That whole time, I was holding down rapid click. Alright, let's put down some custom icons here. Keep everything nice and organized. Just get those drivers there. Alright, so let's make sure I've got that RGB controller configured right. So I'll install the software for it. Alright, looks like we've frozen up. I love installing Windows. It's so much fun. 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off.
Not too much blasting off going on right now.
No, not quite. We'll get there. Windows can be less than stable when it's installing updates the first time. How far did we get? Oh yeah, we got our graphics card drivers, got our Ethernet driver correctly installed. Yeah, sweet. What's going on here? What the fuck? Okay. Well, I'm just going to start installing some other software while we're waiting. So I've got an Acronis, sorry, I've got a WD drive, so we'll install Acronis for WD. We'll come back to Master Plus. We might be having a, could be a Windows driver thing. No. Battle.net, yes. CPU Z. just going to do a quick restart here because I've had such bad luck with Windows stalling on me. Move this fan further up the top there. Just complete those updates. Okay, so we're back in Windows now, so let's give this another try. Oh, not on the internet. That might help. No. What the fuck is going on here? And here's me saying it's more reliable than Armory Crate. Okay, now it's doing something. Aha. RGB is all set up and addressable. So we can control it all from here for our fans. I'll just get this last Windows update done quickly there. Now that's looking a lot better. Hang on a sec, I'll be back. Okay. Needed a drink. Okay, that's done. It's done. That's done. It's nearly done. Corsair IQ. GeForce Experience. Oh my god. Alright, let's get everything set up here in MSI Afterburner. Alright, set our controls. Okay, they won't take long to download. And I think that's everything. Okay, that's sorted. Okay, so we've disconnected all of our other drives so we can set up our 1TB drive. So here it is, it's been detected. And we'll call it storage hard disk drive. go. Excellent. Should have a BIOS on here ready to go for it. Let me just double check that. Let me just get a fresh one. D18V13. D18V11. Grab a fresh one. There we go. Sweet as. Alright, the rest of that stuff installed. Got the BIOS on there. Alrighty. Make sure there's no cumulative updates pending. I'll set the time and the date. I'm pretty sure this guy's local. Okay, that's all sorted. Probably restart after these ME drivers. And if it does, oh no, it's gonna do it without a reboot. That's kind of cool. Okay. Go ahead and restart, and we'll update the BIOS, and we'll be good to go. Oh, I missed it. Okay, enter flash mode. Alright, so we'll let that update, and then we can go and run some benchmarks and do the stress test, and should be good to go. Okay. So here it is, our i7 11700. Just quickly, I'm gonna, while I remember to do it, disable all this crap that comes on automatically. Some things can, other things will disable. What happened there? Ooh, it spikes up, then drops straight down. What's the deal there? Let's try that one again. Okay. So let's just turn off the limits. There we go. Now it's holding it. Yay! No issues with the temps there. Very good. Go. So as we can see, we're right up the top of our CPU hierarchy here. And multi-thread. And if we have a look, I'll look at some gaming benchmarks. So we're on Heaven here in the out of the box settings. So this value here below RAM is how many frames per second it's currently running at. So it's happened there on the out of the box settings. Next one we'll run is Valley. We'll run that one on Ultra with max anti-aliasing. final one we run is our 4K benchmark. Sweet as. So that was our gaming benchmarks. Ugh. I'm getting tired. Shit, it's 11 o'clock. Definitely started a bit later tonight. Alright, I'll run that for 90 minutes. Okay, so we've got firmware running there, stressing the graphics card, and we'll run Cinebench here to stress the CPU. So our temps are looking pretty good there. Graphics card's behaving itself. But yeah. Alright, so that's pretty much the end of the night now, everyone. So I'll hang around for a couple more minutes just in case anyone's got any other final questions for me before I sign off for the night. Okay. Yes, everything there looks like it's behaving itself. Don't see any reason why it won't pass the stress test won't pass the stress test here tonight. So, no, I think it's that time of the night where I sign off because I'm getting really tired. In case you haven't noticed, my brain is starting to shut down for the evening. I think I need to watch some cartoons or something. Alrighty. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.